Part 1. The unwelcoming Maison Royale Hotel stood tall and majestic in the city's affluent district, its glass facade gleaming in the midday sun. The hotel was renowned for hosting the world's elite, celebrities, politicians, and billionaires. Its name had become synonymous with luxury and exclusivity, and stepping inside felt like entering a different world. Elijah King, a successful tech entrepreneur in his early 40s, walked through the grand entrance of the hotel, his polished leather shoes clicking against the pristine marble floors. Dressed in a perfectly tailored navy blue suit, Elijah's presence commanded attention. His sharp brown eyes scanned the lavish lobby, where crystal chandeliers hung like floating stars, reflecting light across the polished surfaces. The air smelled of fresh flowers and expensive cologne. Elijah was no stranger to luxury. Raised in a modest neighborhood, he had worked tirelessly to build his company, FutureMind, from the ground up. Today, he was at Maison Royale for a pivotal business meeting with Charles Whitmore, a well-known investor who could potentially take FutureMind to the next level. This was his chance to expand his company, hire more talented engineers, and push the boundaries of artificial intelligence technology. As he approached the front desk, a young receptionist smiled at him, but before he could say anything, a man in his mid-50s with an arrogant demeanor and slicked-back graying hair stepped forward. His name tag read, Philip Green, manager. Philip's eyes quickly scanned Elijah, taking in every detail from his suit to his confident posture. The tension in his gaze was unmistakable. Good afternoon, sir. How may I assist you? Philip asked, his tone polite but with an underlying edge that suggested he was already preparing for a problem. Yes, I have a reservation under the name Elijah King, Elijah replied, sliding his credit card across the counter. He noticed the brief exchange of glances between Philip and the receptionist, a flicker of surprise mixed with something else. Philip's lips curled slightly as he glanced at the computer screen. Ah, Mr. King, he said slowly, as if savoring the name. It appears there might be a small issue with your reservation. Elijah raised an eyebrow, already sensing where this was headed. An issue? I made this reservation weeks ago and confirmed it yesterday. What's the problem? Philip leaned forward slightly, lowering his voice to a conspiratorial whisper. It seems we may have overbooked the hotel. Unfortunately, we don't have any rooms available at the moment. Perhaps you could find accommodations elsewhere. Elijah's jaw tightened. He had been in similar situations before, moments where he could feel the unspoken question of whether he truly belonged. He kept his voice calm but firm. I don't think you understand. I have a confirmed reservation, and I'm not leaving until I get the room I paid for. A few guests nearby started to notice the exchange. An elderly couple in expensive attire shot disapproving glances in Elijah's direction. Philip's smile became more strained, his demeanor shifting from false politeness to something sharper. Sir, Maison Royale is known for catering to a certain type of clientele. We wouldn't want you to feel out of place here. The insult was thinly veiled, and Elijah's patience was wearing thin. I assure you, I'm quite comfortable here, he said, his tone hardening. And I intend to stay. Philip's expression turned cold. If you refuse to leave, I'll have no choice but to call security. Elijah's eyes bore into Philip's. Go ahead. I'd love to have a conversation with them. Part 2, a confrontation in the lobby. Within minutes, two large security guards, Tom and Mike, arrived. Both men were in their late 30s, built like linebackers, and wore expressions of practiced neutrality. They looked between Elijah and Philip, clearly uncertain about the unfolding situation. Sir, Tom began, his voice measured, we're going to have to ask you to leave the premises. Elijah turned to face the guards, his stance unwavering. I have a confirmed reservation here. I'm not leaving because your manager has a problem with me being here. Before Tom could respond, a woman's voice cut through the tension. Excuse me, what's happening here? A petite brunette in her mid-30s, with an air of authority and a sharp, determined expression, stepped forward from behind the desk. Her name tag read, Anna, Guest Relations Manager. Philip turned to her, his annoyance clear. This gentleman is causing a disturbance. He refuses to leave despite being told we're overbooked. Anna glanced at Philip with a look that could cut glass before turning to Elijah. May I have your name, sir? Elijah King, he replied. Anna quickly typed his name into the computer, her eyes narrowing as she reviewed the screen. Mr. King, I see your reservation right here. It's fully confirmed, and we have a room ready for you. She turned back to Philip, her expression unyielding. There's no mistake. Philip's face flushed with a mix of anger and embarrassment. I must have overlooked it, there's no error, Anna cut him off, her voice firm. She turned back to Elijah. Mr. King, I apologize for the inconvenience. I'll personally escort you to your room. Elijah nodded, appreciating her professionalism. As they walked toward the elevator, he could feel the eyes of the lobby on him. He had faced down another gatekeeper, but he also knew this wasn't the end of it. Philip Green was the kind of man who didn't like to lose. Part 5, Unmasking the Villain. With Philip effectively sidelined, the meeting resumed. Elijah continued his presentation, and by the time he finished, Whitmore was visibly impressed. You've got a solid business plan, Elijah, he said. I'd like to invest. Elijah felt a surge of relief. Thank you, Mr. Whitmore. I believe we can achieve great things together. As they shook hands, Elijah noticed Philip lingering in the corner, his face flushed with anger and humiliation. The manager quickly left the room, but Elijah knew this wasn't over. Philip Green wasn't the type to go down without a fight. Later that evening, Elijah returned to his suite, his mind still buzzing with thoughts of the meeting and the confrontation with Philip. He decided he needed to dig deeper into who Philip Green was and why he seemed so determined to undermine him. That night, he reached out to Anna, who had proven herself a valuable ally. They met in a secluded corner of the hotel bar. Thank you for what you did back there, Elijah said. But I need to know more about Philip. Why does he have it out for me? Anna sighed, glancing around to make sure they were alone. Philip's been here for over 2 decades. He sees himself as the gatekeeper of the hotel's image. He's always been very selective about who he thinks belongs here. Elijah nodded. And I don't fit that image. It's more than that, Anna continued. Philip uses his position to curry favor with high-profile guests and investors. I think he saw your meeting with Whitmore as a threat. Maybe you weren't the kind of guest he could control or manipulate. Elijah leaned back, his mind racing with possibilities. So, it's not just about me being here, it's about power and influence. Exactly, Anna said. And he's willing to go to great lengths to protect his territory. But he's made a lot of enemies over the years, and I think if we work together, we can expose him for who he really is. Elijah's eyes narrowed with determination. I'm in. Let's take him down. Part 6, the plot thickens. Over the next few days, Elijah and Anna began to dig deeper into Philip's activities. They spoke to staff members who had stories to tell, about how Philip had mistreated them, bullied them, or manipulated situations to his advantage. They found evidence of him pocketing tips meant for the bellhops and waitstaff, bending rules to his favor, and even fabricating complaints against guests who dared to challenge him. Elijah also reached out to some of the regular guests and investors Philip had tried to court. Some were willing to talk, sharing how Philip had tried to manipulate their opinions or steer them away from certain people for his own gain. One investor, a woman named Julia, revealed that Philip had tried to blackmail her into investing in a friend's failing business. Armed with this information, Elijah and Anna knew they needed to make a public spectacle to ensure Philip's downfall was thorough and undeniable. They decided to set a trap. Part 7, the trap is set. Maison Royale was buzzing with excitement over a supposed visit from a high-profile celebrity. Philip was running around, directing staff and ensuring everything was perfect for what he believed would be his crowning moment. Unbeknownst to him, the celebrity was a ruse, a decoy created by Elijah and Anna to lure him into the spotlight. Elijah had contacted a local news station, hinting that there was a major story developing at Maison Royale. The journalists arrived under the guise of covering the celebrity's visit, but they were prepared for something much bigger. As the clock ticked toward the fake arrival time, the lobby filled with guests and curious onlookers. Philip, standing in the center like a general preparing for battle, was ready to showcase his version of hospitality. Elijah and Anna waited in the wings, their plan ready to unfold. Right on cue, the news crew approached with cameras rolling. A confident reporter stepped forward, microphone in hand. Good afternoon. We're here to cover the exceptional guest services at Maison Royale Hotel, she announced. Philip's face lit up. Welcome. Maison Royale prides itself on delivering unmatched luxury and hospitality, he said, his voice full of pride. Elijah stepped into view. Is that what you call what happened to me? The reporter turned, sensing a bigger story. Would you care to elaborate, sir? Elijah recounted his experience, detailing the discrimination he faced when trying to check in, the forged report meant to derail his business meeting, and how Anna had stepped in to reveal the truth. The camera captured every word, and a crowd began to form. The reporter, sensing a major scoop, turned to Philip. Mr. Green, how do you respond to these allegations? Philip, clearly rattled, tried to regain his composure. I think there's been a misunderstanding, Anna cut in. There's no misunderstanding. This is one of many incidents where Mr. Green has abused his position. We have multiple witnesses and evidence to back it up. Several staff members stepped forward, nodding and sharing their stories. The crowd buzzed with whispers and gasps as the truth unfolded before them. The reporter pressed on. It seems there's a pattern of misconduct here, Mr. Green. How do you explain this? Realizing he was trapped, Philip's face drained of color. He muttered something about protocols and miscommunication, but his words were lost amid the murmurs of the crowd. The news crew had captured everything. Part 8, The Fallout and Redemption. The story broke the next morning, spreading like wildfire across social media and news outlets. Maison Royale's management was forced to act swiftly. Philip Green was fired on the spot, and the hotel issued a public apology, vowing to revamp its policies and practices to prevent such incidents from happening again. Elijah's victory was not just personal, it was symbolic for many who had faced similar discrimination. His story became an inspiration, a reminder that standing up for oneself and using one's voice could turn the tide. His partnership with Charles Whitmore flourished, and FutureMind soon became a leader in AI technology, known not just for innovation but also for its commitment to diversity and integrity. Anna, whose courage and integrity had proven invaluable, was offered a promotion at the hotel but chose a different path. She joined FutureMind as the chief operating officer, where she knew she could make a real difference. Together, she and Elijah built a company that thrived on inclusivity, creativity, and a relentless pursuit of excellence. Elijah's experience at Maison Royale became more than just a story of overcoming adversity, it became a powerful lesson in resilience, unity, and the power of truth. It resonated far beyond the hotel lobby, reaching people everywhere who needed to hear it, and in the end, Elijah knew that sometimes, being pushed out of a place where you're not wanted is just life's way of guiding you to where you truly belong. Part 9, New Opportunities and New Enemies. Following the explosive fallout at Maison Royale, life seemed to shift gears for Elijah and Anna. The story of their stand against discrimination and corruption didn't just end with the news coverage, it sparked a conversation across the city and beyond. Elijah became a symbol of resilience and integrity in the face of injustice, and his company, FutureMind, gained newfound respect and admiration, but with new recognition came new challenges. As FutureMind began to attract more investors and clients, it also drew the attention of competitors in the tech industry who felt threatened by Elijah's rapid rise. Among them was Stephen Caldwell, the CEO of one of the largest tech companies in the country, TechSphere. Caldwell was known for his ruthless business tactics and his disdain for any competition that he perceived as a threat. With his sharp suits and a colder gaze that seemed to see right through people, Caldwell had built his empire through aggressive takeovers and an unyielding drive for dominance. Caldwell saw FutureMind's growing influence as a direct challenge. He decided that if he couldn't buy them out, he'd crush them. Part 10, The Shadow of Sabotage. Elijah was in his office one evening, going over plans for FutureMind's new AI-driven healthcare initiative, when his phone rang. It was Anna. Hey, Elijah, I think we have a problem, Anna said, her voice tense. What's going on? Elijah asked, his mind immediately going on alert. I've been hearing rumors, TechSphere is planning something. A few of our engineers mentioned they were approached by Caldwell's people, offering them double their salaries to leave FutureMind. And there's more. I think they're planning a hostile campaign against us, Anna explained. Elijah sighed. I should have seen this coming. Caldwell doesn't like competition. Anna's voice grew even more serious. I think it's time we prepare for a counterattack. If he wants a fight, let's give him one. Elijah agreed. We need to protect our team and our technology. I'm not going to let him push us around. Part 11, Building the Alliance. Over the next few weeks, Elijah and Anna worked tirelessly to bolster FutureMind's defenses. They tightened security protocols, added new layers of encryption to protect their data, and initiated measures to ensure employee loyalty through improved benefits and a more inclusive workplace culture. But Elijah knew they couldn't face TechSphere's might alone. He reached out to other smaller tech firms, those that had been bullied or outmaneuvered by Caldwell in the past. Many of them had their own grievances against TechSphere and were eager to push back against the tech giant's bullying tactics. One of these firms was Nanocore, a promising robotic startup led by Javier Martinez, a brilliant engineer who had once worked for Caldwell before he was unceremoniously fired for challenging the CEO's ethics. Javier, a man in his late 30s with a sharp mind and a fiery spirit, had always wanted a chance to strike back. Caldwell thinks he's untouchable, Javier said during a meeting with Elijah and Anna. He's built his empire on crushing others, but he doesn't realize how much resentment he's built up over the years. I'm in. Let's show him he's not the only one with power. Elijah nodded. We're stronger together. If we can combine our resources and talents, we can create something even Caldwell can't stop. With Nanocore and a handful of other innovative tech firms on their side, a new alliance was formed, an alliance determined to stand up against TechSphere's domination. Part 12. Caldwell's countermove. Caldwell wasn't one to sit back and watch his competitors unite against him. When he learned of Elijah's alliance, he was furious. Who does he think he is? Caldwell spat, pacing in his corner office. Ain't nobody from nowhere challenging me. I built this industry. I won't let him take what's mine. He decided it was time to play dirty. Caldwell authorized a covert operation to plant malware in FutureMind systems, a sophisticated virus that would quietly corrupt their data and sabotage their projects. He hired a hacker known only as Ghost, a notorious cybercriminal with a reputation for leaving no trace. The malware was set to activate just before FutureMind's biggest product launch to date, the unveiling of their AI-driven healthcare solution, which had the potential to revolutionize diagnostics and patient care. Elijah and Anna had been working toward this moment for months, and Caldwell intended to turn it into a disaster. Part 13, the discovery. 3 days before the launch, while reviewing the final system checks, one of FutureMind's top engineers, Sarah Patel, noticed something unusual. Sarah was a young prodigy, a cybersecurity expert who had a knack for finding things others missed. Elijah, Anna, I think you need to see this, Sarah said, rushing into Elijah's office. She showed them her screen, pointing to a line of code buried deep within the system that didn't belong. Anna's eyes widened. Is that malware? Sarah nodded. A Trojan, very well hidden. If I hadn't been running some deep diagnostics, I wouldn't have found it. It's set to activate in 48 hours. Elijah's mind raced. Can we trace it? Find out who did this? Sarah frowned. It's sophisticated, but I can try. I'll need some time. Do it, Elijah said. We need to know who we're dealing with. Hours later, Sarah came back with her findings. It's Ghost, she said, her voice tinged with both awe and fear. The hacker for hire. And I traced some payment routes, back to TechSphere. Anna's face hardened. Caldwell. Elijah nodded grimly. He thinks he can break us. He's about to learn how wrong he is. Part 14, turning the tables. With the malware identified, Sarah and her team worked around the clock to neutralize it and ensure no further vulnerabilities existed. Elijah and Anna knew this was their chance to not just defend themselves but to turn the tables on Caldwell and TechSphere. Elijah reached out to his contacts in the tech community, including some ethical hackers and cybersecurity experts who were tired of seeing the likes of Caldwell bully smaller companies. They hatched a plan to expose Caldwell's tactics to the world. A press conference was organized under the guise of FutureMind's product launch. Journalists, investors, and tech enthusiasts packed the hall, eager to see the new AI healthcare solution. What they didn't know was that they were about to witness something much bigger. Elijah took the stage, his demeanor calm but charged with purpose. Thank you all for being here today. We're excited to share what we've been working on, but first, there's something you need to know. Something that affects not just us but the entire industry. He then detailed the attempted sabotage by TechSphere, revealing the malware, the proof of payment to Ghost, and the unethical lengths Caldwell had gone to in order to stifle competition. The room buzzed with shock and outrage. Anna followed up with a passionate speech about the importance of fair competition, innovation, and integrity in the tech world. We stand here not just for ourselves, but for every company, every innovator who has ever been silenced or shut down by those who fear progress and change. The press erupted with questions, and within hours, the story had gone viral. Caldwell's reputation took a massive hit. His shareholders were outraged, and investigations were launched into TechSphere's practices. Part 15, Caldwell's downfall. With his empire crumbling, Caldwell tried to defend himself in the media, claiming he was the victim of a smear campaign. But the evidence against him was overwhelming. Former employees and business partners started coming forward, sharing their own stories of Caldwell's unethical tactics, his bullying, and his relentless greed. The board of TechSphere, fearing complete collapse, made a decision: Caldwell had to go. Within weeks, he was removed as CEO, his empire fractured, and his reputation in ruins. Elijah, Anna, and their alliance watched as the giant fell. It wasn't just a victory for FutureMind, it was a victory for fairness, innovation, and the idea that even in business, there must be a line that no one should cross. Part 16, a new chapter. With Caldwell out of the picture, the tech world began to change. Smaller companies felt more empowered to innovate and push boundaries without the fear of being crushed by giants. FutureMind continued to grow, its AI healthcare solution becoming a game-changer in the industry, saving lives and setting new standards for what technology could achieve. Anna, now firmly established as FutureMind COO, spearheaded new initiatives to foster a culture of innovation and inclusivity. She was instrumental in forming mentorship programs that helped underrepresented groups break into the tech field, ensuring the next generation of leaders would be even more diverse and visionary. Elijah, meanwhile, found himself becoming not just a CEO but a mentor and a leader in the tech community. He was invited to speak at conferences, universities, and think tanks around the world, sharing his story of perseverance, courage, and the importance of standing up for what is right. But he never forgot the lessons learned at Maison Royale. Sometimes, the battles we face aren't just about business or money, they're about dignity, respect, and the power of unity. And so, as FutureMind entered its next chapter, Elijah and Anna knew they had built something far more valuable than a company. They had built a legacy of resilience, integrity, and hope, a beacon for those who believed in the promise of a better future. Part 17, the return to Maison Royale. Several months later, Elijah found himself standing once again at the grand entrance of the Maison Royale Hotel. This time, he wasn't there for a business meeting or to fight for his right to stay. He was invited as a guest of honor at a charity gala hosted by the hotel under its new management, which had been deeply reformed after the scandal. As he walked through the familiar glass doors, he noticed the changes. The staff seemed happier, more diverse, and there was an air of warmth that hadn't been there before. Anna, now a key player in the tech world, walked beside him, both of them dressed in elegant evening attire. They were greeted by the new manager, a young woman named Lisa, who smiled warmly. "Mr. King, Miss Anna, it's an honor to have you here. We've heard a lot about you and your incredible story." Elijah smiled. "Thank you, Lisa. It's good to be back under better circumstances." As they mingled at the gala, Elijah couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had brought him here, from being unwelcome in a place like this to standing as a respected guest of honor. It was a full-circle moment that spoke volumes about change, growth, and the power of standing one's ground. The evening was filled with laughter, stories, and hope for the future. As Elijah and Anna stood on the balcony overlooking the city skyline, they knew that this was just the beginning. There were more battles to fight, more stories to tell, and more worlds to change, and they were ready for whatever came next. Part 18, the unseen threat. After the gala at Maison Royale, Elijah and Anna returned to their rapidly growing empire at FutureMind with renewed energy. The exposure from their confrontation with TechSphere had put them in a favorable position, but it also made them a target for other competitors who envied their success. While Caldwell was out of the picture, the tech industry was still rife with those who thrived on cutthroat tactics. A few months after the gala, as FutureMind was in the middle of developing their latest AI project, an ambitious program designed to revolutionize predictive analytics for climate change, an unexpected issue arose. Elijah noticed a sudden slowdown in the development process. Initially, it seemed like a minor technical glitch, but as days passed, the problem persisted and began to escalate. One afternoon, Sarah Patel, their cybersecurity expert, barged into Elijah's office with a look of grave concern. "Elijah, I need to show you something. We've got another problem." Elijah frowned, turning away from his desk. "What is it, Sarah?" Sarah placed her laptop on his desk and showed him a series of logs and code discrepancies. "We've been hacked again. Someone has managed to infiltrate our system and is siphoning off data slowly, small bits at a time, to avoid detection. They're targeting our newest AI models." Elijah's face darkened. "Is it Ghost again?" Sarah shook her head. No, this is different. This is someone more careful, more methodical. They're using a backdoor that's practically invisible. If I hadn't been running these deep scans, we would never have noticed. Anna, who was in the office reviewing the latest hiring policies, looked up sharply. Any idea who it could be? Sarah hesitated. I have a lead, but it's thin. There's a trail that leads back to a group known as the Data Phantoms, a secretive organization that's been selling stolen tech data to the highest bidder. No one knows who runs it, but they've been linked to several major data breaches across the industry. Elijah and Anna exchanged a look. This was serious. If the Data Phantoms were targeting them, it meant they had something valuable, something worth stealing. Part 19, The Hunt for the Data Phantoms. Elijah knew they couldn't sit back and let this attack go unchecked. They needed to act fast. The next day, he gathered his core team, Sarah, Anna, Javier from Nanocore, and a few other trusted allies who had experience in cybersecurity. We need to find out who these Data Phantoms are and what they're after, Elijah said, looking around the room. Sarah, I need you to keep digging into their trail. Javier, can you use some of Nanocore's resources to help with the search? Javier nodded. Absolutely. We have a few guys who are good at tracking down digital ghosts. For the next few weeks, the team worked around the clock. They followed every lead, analyzed every bit of data, and tried to anticipate their adversaries' moves. It wasn't long before they started to piece together a clearer picture. The Data Phantoms weren't just a loose group of hackers, they were a well-organized syndicate with ties to several rogue states and corporate entities that thrived on industrial espionage. One of their most significant breakthroughs came when Sarah managed to intercept a communication between two members of the Data Phantoms. They're planning a major heist, she reported during a late-night strategy meeting. And we're their primary target. They want the algorithms we're developing for predictive climate modeling. Elijah leaned forward. Why? What's their angle? Javier, who had been reading over Sarah's shoulder, chimed in. If they can get their hands on that technology, they can sell it to corporations and governments who might use it for less noble purposes, manipulating data to downplay climate change risks, creating false predictions to destabilize markets. The list goes on. Anna shook her head. We need to stop them. This isn't just about us anymore. It's about the integrity of the data that could impact global policy. Part 20, A Dangerous Game. To counter the threat, Elijah and his team decided to turn the tables on the Data Phantoms. They created a digital honeypot, an enticing, seemingly vulnerable part of their network designed to lure the hackers in. Inside, they placed false data that appeared valuable but was actually designed to track the hackers back to their source. It didn't take long for the bait to work. One night, as Sarah monitored the network, she saw the signal they'd been waiting for. They're in, she whispered, her eyes glued to the screen. Just like we planned. They're going for the bait. The room fell silent as they watched the digital intruders begin to navigate the honeypot. Elijah, Anna, and the others waited with bated breath, knowing they had only one chance to get this right. As the Data Phantoms dug deeper, unknowingly triggering hidden tracers, Sarah began to pull back the layers of their network. Come on, she murmured under her breath, fingers flying across the keyboard. Finally, she saw it, a direct link back to an IP address that was supposed to be untraceable. I got them, she shouted. I've got a location. It's a front company operating out of Eastern Europe, but there's more. There's a link to an offshore account. If we follow the money, do it, Elijah ordered. Track it to the source. Sarah continued her work, tracing the digital breadcrumbs with remarkable speed. The tension in the room was palpable. After what felt like an eternity, she looked up, her face pale. It's not just a rogue operation. The funds are tied to a shell corporation owned by someone in the tech industry, a competitor. Anna's eyes narrowed. Who? Sarah hesitated. Victor Langston. Elijah's face hardened. Victor Langston was another tech mogul, known for his ruthless pursuit of market dominance and his willingness to bend the rules to get what he wanted. He was a man who had already tried to buy out FutureMind in its early days, and when Elijah had refused, he'd vowed to make things difficult for him. Part 21, Confronting the Enemy. Knowing that Langston was behind the attack, Elijah and Anna decided to confront him directly. They knew he wouldn't admit anything outright, but they could use the information they had to rattle him and make him slip up. They arranged a meeting through a mutual contact, under the pretext of discussing potential collaboration opportunities. When Elijah and Anna walked into Langston's luxurious office, he greeted them with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Elijah, Anna, to what do I owe this surprise visit?" Langston asked, his tone oily and insincere. Elijah didn't waste time with pleasantries. "Cut the crap, Victor. We know you're behind the Data Phantom's attack on Future Mind." Langston's smile didn't falter, but his eyes flashed with a moment of surprise. "I have no idea what you're talking about," he said smoothly. "You can't just come in here throwing around baseless accusations." Anna leaned forward, her expression cold. "We traced the funds, Victor. We know they lead back to you. You tried to steal our technology, and when that didn't work, you hired a group of hackers to do your dirty work." Langston's facade of confidence wavered for a moment, but he quickly recovered. "You think you're clever, don't you? But you can't prove a thing. All you have is a series of coincidences." Elijah's eyes narrowed. "Maybe. But we have enough to make a lot of noise. Enough to get the authorities involved. Enough to make your shareholders nervous." Langston's smile faded completely, replaced by a cold, calculating look. "You're playing a dangerous game, Elijah. You think you're untouchable, but you're not. I could crush you with a single phone call." Anna's voice was steady. "Then why haven't you? Maybe you know that if you push too hard, you'll lose everything." For a moment, the room was silent, the tension so thick it was almost tangible. Finally, Langston leaned back, his expression turning icy. "You're making a mistake. But I'll give you this, I underestimated you, Elijah. You've got more fight in you than I thought." Elijah and Anna stood to leave. "This isn't over, Langston," Elijah said. "But next time, it won't be us who comes knocking." Part 22, Preparing for War. Elijah knew Langston wouldn't back down easily. The confrontation had bought them some time, but it was clear that a bigger battle was looming. He and Anna decided they needed to take things to the next level. They couldn't just play defense, they had to go on the offensive. They began reaching out to contacts in both the tech industry and government. They found allies who were tired of Langston's bullying tactics, people who were willing to stand up and support FutureMind's fight for fairness and integrity in the industry. One of these allies was Maya Rivera, a high-ranking official in the Department of Digital Security, known for her no-nonsense attitude and her commitment to rooting out corruption. She had been following the developments between FutureMind and Langston with interest. "Elijah, I've got eyes on Langston," Maya said during a covert meeting in a quiet cafe. "He's a snake, and he's been on our radar for a while. If you're serious about bringing him down, we're willing to help." Elijah nodded. "We have the evidence, but we need more to build a solid case. Can you help us get it?" Maya smiled. "Leave it to me. We've got some tricks up our sleeves too." Part 23, The storm breaks. For the next few months, Elijah, Anna, and their growing network of allies worked tirelessly to gather evidence and build their case against Langston. They knew they were up against a formidable opponent, but they also knew they were fighting for something bigger than themselves. Then, one morning, the news broke. A federal investigation was being launched into Victor Langston and his company for a series of unethical practices, including industrial espionage, data breaches, and attempts to manipulate markets. The evidence was damning, and the fallout was immediate. Langston tried to fight back, using his wealth and influence to spin the narrative, but the tide had turned against him. More whistleblowers came forward, more documents were leaked, and soon, even his most loyal supporters began to abandon him. FutureMind, meanwhile, emerged from the storm stronger than ever. Elijah and Anna's leadership and determination had not only saved their company but had set a new standard in the tech industry, one where ethics and innovation could coexist. Part 24, Building a New Future. With Langston's downfall, a new era began for FutureMind and the tech world. The alliance Elijah had formed with smaller tech companies became a powerful coalition that pushed for transparency, fairness, and collaboration in the industry. FutureMind's AI-driven climate predictive model went on to become a cornerstone of global climate policy, helping governments and organizations make informed decisions to combat climate change. Elijah and Anna, now more respected and influential than ever, continued to push the boundaries of technology, always mindful of the lessons they had learned and the battles they had fought. As they stood on the precipice of the next great chapter for FutureMind, they knew they had not just built a company, they had built a legacy, and this was only the beginning. Part 25, the final battle for the future. Months passed since Victor Langston's public disgrace and the collapse of his empire, but Elijah King and Anna knew better than to assume it was over. People like Langston didn't just disappear, they adapted, recalibrated, and found new ways to strike back. The industry had been buzzing with rumors that Langston had gone underground, re-emerging as the leader of a shadowy cabal of disgruntled former tech executives and rogue hackers. They were bitter, vengeful, and determined to reclaim their lost influence. FutureMind, having grown in prominence, was both a beacon of hope for ethical innovation and a target for those who feared their rise. As Elijah and Anna prepared for their next big initiative, a groundbreaking project combining AI with sustainable technology to combat global food shortages, they knew they had to stay vigilant. Part 26, The Gathering Storm. One evening, as Elijah was wrapping up a late-night strategy session with Anna, his phone buzzed. It was an encrypted message from Maya Rivera, the high-ranking official from the Department of Digital Security who had become an invaluable ally. We need to meet. It's urgent, the message read. A sense of foreboding settled in Elijah's stomach. He looked at Anna. Maya wants to meet. Something's up. The next morning, they met Maya at a discreet location, an old, unassuming diner on the edge of the city. The place was almost empty, save for a few regulars. Maya was already seated in a booth, her face set in a serious expression. I'm afraid I have some bad news, Maya began, leaning in close. We've been monitoring communications from a group we believe is working under Langston. They're planning something big, a coordinated cyber attack targeting FutureMind's new AI sustainability project. Elijah's eyes widened. How soon? Within the next week, Maya replied. They're going to try to destroy your reputation and your technology in one blow. Anna took a deep breath. Do we have any idea where they're operating from? Maya nodded. We've tracked some of their communications to an old data center outside the city. We believe Langston has set up a base there, using it as a command center for his operations. Elijah felt a rush of adrenaline. Then we need to act now. We can't let them destroy everything we've built. Part 27, Preparing for the offensive. Back at FutureMind, Elijah and Anna gathered their core team, including Sarah, Javier, and a few other trusted allies. They laid out the situation and began planning their next move. It was clear that they couldn't just play defense this time, they had to take the fight directly to Langston and his rogue faction. We need to be smart about this, Elijah said. If we're going to shut them down, we have to be one step ahead. Sarah, can you coordinate with Maya's team to set up a counteroffensive? We need to neutralize their attack before it starts. Sarah nodded, her eyes sharp with determination. I'm on it. We'll set up false leads and fake vulnerabilities to mislead them. While they're busy chasing shadows, we'll trace their exact location and shut them down. Anna added, and we need to prepare a public statement, just in case things go sideways. We can't let them control the narrative. The team worked around the clock, setting up layers of digital traps and decoys. They also prepared an emergency response plan to protect their technology and data, should Langston's group manage to breach any defenses. It was a high-stakes game of cat and mouse, and everyone knew the gravity of the situation. Part 28, The Confrontation. On the night before the expected attack, Elijah and Anna stayed at the FutureMind headquarters, monitoring every detail with their team. The atmosphere was tense but focused. Sarah was at her station, her fingers flying across the keyboard as she monitored network activity. Here they come, Sarah announced suddenly, her voice calm but urgent. I'm seeing unauthorized pings from multiple locations. They're probing our defenses. Elijah and Anna stood behind her, watching the screen as dots began to appear, indicating attempts to infiltrate their network. Sarah quickly began implementing countermeasures, deploying the decoys and traps they had set up earlier. They're taking the bait, Sarah said, her lips curling into a slight smile. They're following the false leads. Meanwhile, Javier and his team were working on isolating the real locations of the attackers. We're close, Javier muttered. Just a little more. Suddenly, a loud alarm blared through the room. They've breached one of our decoy servers, Sarah called out. We've got a trace on them. The team watched as a red dot blinked on the map, marking the exact location of Langston's base of operations, the abandoned data center Maya had mentioned. Elijah grabbed his phone and called Maya. We've got them. It's time to move. Part 29, the raid within minutes, a team of federal agents, led by Maya, was dispatched to the location. Elijah, Anna, and a small contingent from their team joined the raid, determined to see this through to the end. As they approached the data center, they could see it was heavily fortified with security measures, but the element of surprise was on their side. Maya signaled her team, and the agents moved in, swiftly disabling the perimeter defenses. Elijah and Anna stayed back, observing through surveillance feeds as the agents breached the main entrance. Inside, the facility was a hive of activity, with rows of servers and computers manned by a small army of rogue hackers. Chaos erupted as the agents stormed the building. Elijah and Anna watched as several hackers tried to flee, only to be apprehended. The scene was tense but under control, until they saw him. Victor Langston stood at the center of the room, his expression a mix of fury and disbelief. "You think you've won, Elijah?" he shouted, his voice dripping with venom. "This isn't over. I'll find another way." Elijah stepped forward, facing his old adversary through the video feed. "You're done, Victor. It's over." Langston's face contorted with rage. "You think you're a hero? You're just another pawn. But I'm the one who controls the board." Before Langston could say more, the agents moved in, restraining him and shutting down the remaining servers. The battle was over. Part 30. A new dawn. The aftermath of the raid marked the end of Langston's reign of terror in the tech industry. The news broke immediately, detailing the takedown of a rogue operation led by a disgraced former tech mogul. The public response was overwhelming. People were tired of unethical practices and cheered the victory of integrity over corruption. FutureMind's reputation soared to new heights. The world saw Elijah and Anna not just as tech leaders but as defenders of innovation, ethics, and justice. Their AI-driven sustainability project launched successfully, drawing praise from global leaders and organizations dedicated to fighting climate change and food scarcity. In the months that followed, FutureMind expanded its alliance, bringing together more companies that believed in the power of ethical innovation. They launched several groundbreaking projects, including AI-driven initiatives for education, healthcare, and environmental protection. Part 31. Reflecting on the journey. One evening, Elijah and Anna found themselves on the rooftop of FutureMind's headquarters, watching the city lights flicker below. The air was crisp, filled with the promise of new beginnings. "We've come a long way, haven't we?" Anna said softly, her gaze on the horizon. Elijah nodded, his face thoughtful. "We have. And it wasn't just about building a company or fighting off enemies. It was about proving that we could do things differently, that we could change the game." Anna smiled. "And we're just getting started." Elijah turned to her, his expression resolute. "There's so much more to do, so many more challenges to face. But if we've learned anything, it's that we don't back down. We face them head-on, together." Anna nodded, the bond between them stronger than ever. "To the future," she said, raising an imaginary toast. "To the future," Elijah agreed, a smile breaking across his face. As they stood there, looking out over the city they had helped shape, they knew that their story was far from over. There would always be new battles to fight, new innovations to pioneer, and new legacies to build. But whatever came next, they were ready for it. Epilogue. The legacy continues. Years later, FutureMind had not only revolutionized the tech industry but had become a global force for positive change. Elijah King, now regarded as one of the most influential leaders of his generation, and Anna, a trailblazer for women in tech and business, had turned their company into a symbol of integrity, innovation, and hope. They had faced the odds, battled the giants, and emerged stronger. And their journey continued to inspire countless others to rise, to fight for what was right, and to believe in the power of unity and determination. And so, the legacy of FutureMind continued, a beacon in the ever-evolving landscape of technology, proving that with the right vision, the right team, and the right values, anything was possible. The end.